Welcome to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. Your co-hosts, Jason Smith and Brian Bibbo, will inspire and teach you how to prosper in your mind, body, and spirit, not just your financial life. Joining forces with field experts, Jason and Brian are here to help you focus on what matters most in your life, living well.
Hello and welcome. This is Jason Smith for the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. And today we have a guest of Len Komoroski. And there's a few different kind of backgrounds that we could share, Len, of how you and I are connected. Welcome, by the way. Thanks for joining us today.
Jason, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, so just lending a little backdrop. Well, first I'll tell you just a little bit about Len, and then him and I can chat a little bit about sharing with you how we met and what brought us together and how we share this passion and like-mindedness for staying sharp in body and mind. And so Len, it brings over 40 years of leadership in professional sports and entertainment. He played a pivotal role in the growth of franchises such as the Cleveland Cavaliers. You notice I have my Cavs gear on today. Philadelphia Eagles, the Minnesota Timberwolves, helping guide multiple organizations to championship success and business excellence. Glenn is a Duquesne University graduate and dedicated civic leader. Len continues to influence the industry while serving on several nonprofit and community boards. So, Len, now that we gave the formal introduction, let's talk a little bit about a couple ways that you and I are connected. So one is Len and I are both in YPO. So Len, you want to tell everybody what YPO is? How long have you been in by chance?
I've been in YPO, or Young Presidents Organization, and we have, as we know, we have YPO and YPO Gold. As you succeed, go up the ladder like I have, but it's a terrific organization of worldwide, global organization, international to that end. But I came on board in 2005. I started with YPO.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm only a couple years in. And one of the things that they had introduced us to through YPO was this whole life challenge. And I was really intrigued with it. So I signed up for it about a year and a half ago for the first time. And I did a version again just this last season, again in around November. It ended. And it was, basically a way to kind of challenge yourself, to kind of take yourself to the next level in focusing in what I would say is holistic health, right? Mind, body, soul. Had different categories that each day you had to log into the app and do a scoring system. And we had like a little mini competition at YPO in the Cleveland chapter of like a point scoring of who, basically a contest, right? Who would get the most amount of points throughout that period of time. I think it was 6 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah. It's about a 6 week challenge. Yes.
Yep. And the funny thing is a lot of people know I don't follow media real closely and that kind of thing. I kind of am selective of the information that I consume that is going to help me in my career, as well as being a better father and businessman and family man. So I don't subscribe to traditional media, and there's some positives to that, obviously, but the trade-off is sometimes I don't know a lot of the stuff, the everyday stuff that everybody knows. And one of the things is, Len, and I didn't realize you were the general manager of the Cavs during that time.
Yeah, CEO of the Cavs. Yeah.
Or CEO of the Cavs. I'm sorry. Yep. So CEO of the Cavs, and during that time when we were doing this, and the funny thing is like the whole 6 weeks, I'm logging in every day and I'm doing my meditation and yoga and strength training and eating's really clean and a lot of stuff. Some of the things we'll talk about today in today's podcast. And I learned a lot, and it was a great experience. But of course, I got a little competitive, and I could not get out of the number 2 position. And this guy, who I didn't know who he was in the number 1 position. And I was kind of the whole time, I'm like, how in the world is he scoring like perfect, like sleep, meditation, yoga, like every category, almost perfect. And then it was right at the end, I was like, I got to figure out who this dude is. And I Googled you, and I'm like, no way, he's the CEO for the Cavs. That's so cool. So you and I at that point hadn't met, but we have tickets for J.L. Smith to the Avon Crushers. And we have had like a a nice box that we, allow clients to bring their family, and just a great venue to entertain clients and family and friends. And so we ended up meeting there, Len, and then I had shared with you, we were both in YPO, and who I was like, no way. And then obviously we have that Crushers connection, because now you're part of the ownership group and I believe kind of running that organization, right?
No, it was so funny, Jason. First of all, we both were winners, right? Because it was such a great competition and challenge, and we were competing with all these other regions around in YPO for that. But yeah, it's just so coincidental to be able to have met you and find that I guess we were pushing each other. But like I said, everybody was a winner on that point. And it's about really living clean, like you said, doing the right things, and which I know we both aspire to on a daily basis, and really try to learn more every day about what we can do there. And that's where YPO has been quite a gift. They have a whole health and wellness track. Len Pagan, who is in YPO Cleveland, is actually the global chair of the health and wellness vertical within YPO. And Len is incredibly well-versed in that whole space, has really devoted a lot of his life to it. So I'm always learning every single day. And yeah, no, that it's been great. Coincidentally, my wife and I are the majority owners of the Crushers, and our suites are right next to each other. So it's seeing you and your team out there, and just being part of the community, and Lorain County, being able to help lift Lorain County and Western Cuyahoga County as a great platform for bringing the community together, which is really the attraction of why my wife and I have always been big fans of minor league baseball, because how it's a community hub. And no, you just do a tremendous amount. You and JL Smith in total just do a tremendous amount in the community. So it's really been just very, very symmetrical, if you want to say, on so many different fronts. Holistic is a better word, right?
That's right. That's right. Just to talk a little bit about Whole Life Challenge too, because I think the listeners, this is a holistic wealth and health podcast. And so today's going to be focused really on the health component of things. Actually, Len, I'd love to invite you back on maybe a future episode to talk about the holistic wealth side of things, and just I'm sure we could have a really engaging conversation there. You've done tremendously well for yourself in accumulating wealth for you and your family. So I'm sure there's a lot we could learn from you in that aspect as well. On the holistic health side, the Whole Life Challenge, I can't recommend that enough. And I did it with my daughter this last time. I don't even know if YPO did another one, but I signed up through the Whole Life Challenge and did a challenge with my 9-year-old daughter, and we plugged into a community as well. And it was really fun, and just how much you learn too. Like, not only is it creating the daily habits, but even they kind of have, for lack of better words, a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced. And you can choose when you sign up of what level that you want to plug into. And one, obviously, is the advanced is going to be more stringent from a diet and exercise standpoint, and some of the commitments you're going to make. The beginner is going to be the easiest one. And I actually ended up doing kind of the intermediate, the middle one. But things I learned, like one of the things that stuck out to me was I had never really realized the zero sugar stuff. The FDA allows sugar alcohol to go into products and still be counted as zero sugar. And I didn't know that before the Whole Life Challenge. And I'm always really conscious of the sugar intake, and I'm always looking at zero sugar. Okay. But if you look at sugar alcohol and the ingredients, a lot of sugar alcohol is just as bad as sugar health wise.
Right.
And that was a kind of a big aha moment that I had, in a learning opportunity that I learned. And it's great because my kids now, I have twin 7-year-olds, twin 9-year-olds. We go to the grocery stores. Immediately what they do, everything they grab, they flip it around and they start looking at the labels. They start looking at how much added sugar or natural sugar, what the ingredients are, gluten-free, if there's dairy in it, just the processed foods we really scrutinize heavily. But that was something that was a big takeaway for me. Did you have any of those similar kind of takeaways, Len?
No, but I hear you as far as that's concerned. There were some protein bars I used to use, and learning about sugar alcohols and the clinic had a study about erythritol that showed that how it basically it affects effectively with your bloodstream, it creates a sluggish type of effect with that. And it was a real aha, because it's just sort of like all these quote unquote substitutes. You think they're safe when, they really, really aren't, unless it's purely natural. You're really, you just don't know what you're getting. And what you may thought it was okay or terrific, as they continue to go more granular with studies and have a longer period of time to be able to vet and again replicate those studies, you were finding out that if it's not really if it's not really natural overall and in various other fronts, it could be an issue. And then just sugar in general is just not good for you. And anytime you can limit that, there's natural sugars, obviously, whether you have, and I'm a big blueberry fan. My wife always gives me grief. I'll have a bowl of blueberries every night with, if you're familiar with that sort of, I subscribe to my daughter calls it a pescatarian non-dairy diet, which is in that realm, but I'll have some coconut milk yogurt with that. But there's obviously sugar with blueberries, but it's in a natural sugar with different fruits. In Asia, there's different fruits, different sugar levels, whether it be a banana versus an apple or whatever, those type of things that all come into factor. And just like anything else, in moderation and balanced, you're going to be in good shape. But anyhow, it is, you said, it's everything. You're learning something every single day in this space. And the beauty of it is there's been so much research being done now, really on it's on, to not to mix metaphors, but it's on steroids now in terms of how exploded in terms of the amount of information that we're getting, and really been helpful for guiding my personal journey.
No doubt about it. The other big takeaway I got out of that was the seed oils. I had just didn't realize what a big deal seed oils are. And just looking, it's the other thing, we look at labels now, and we really try to stick to only avocado oil, olive oil, and coconut oil, and not really trying to consume things with any of or even cook with any of the other seed oils.
That you hit the nail on it. And this one's so funny because that was another big one. I'm a huge popcorn fan. Love popcorn. I mean, people ask, well, what if you were stranded on an island, what foods would you want? And popcorn would be in my kit of what I love to have. And I don't know if in terms of referencing specific brands on air here, but there was one.
Oh, you're good.
So Skinny Pop.
Yeah.
With Skinny Pop, I was a huge fan. I would generally have several handfuls, certainly a day of it. And there's a whole grain, which is great. But yeah, it's made with sunflower oil. And I was like, wow. So this is touting itself as a healthy popcorn, certainly the calorie counts less and everything else. And then, so our youngest daughter is in medical school at Creighton, and she's sort of our resident in terms of she's very much into health and wellness too. And so we found Lesser Evil popcorn, which is made with coconut oil, as you said, and an alternative, but those little inches matter. Now it's like, okay, let's find those seed oils and get them out of our world too. So anyhow, it's something, but yeah, there's, like you said, sugar, alcohol, seed oil, sugar in general. But the beauty of it is there's so many alternatives that are natural, not processed, just really that are generally good for you and taste great, that we're not just limited to having. Some people if people tuning in who maybe haven't lived in this space as much, and they think, well, I'm saddled with a diet that's going to be basically bland and not anything of anything attractive to actually engage with. But there's so many options that are just terrific, that really puts us all in a great position to be successful.
No doubt. And I think you said something a minute ago about everything in moderation. And I know, like, in my own personal health journey, I used to be, I'm about 205 pounds. I'm 6'4". And for years, I was about 240. And so I was definitely overweight. I carried it really well because I'm so tall, right? So nobody considered me overweight. But in reality, I was very much so, very overweight.
Yeah, for
And
everybody out there, Jason can post me up pretty easily. So I'm 5'11", so you're basically
unfortunately in the NBA, I'm a small point guard. So,
it's just I'm down here at Rocket Arena right now, and I just ran into Brad Sellers, the mayor of Orangeville, and Brad played in the NBA, played with Jordan and the Bulls. But
yeah,
you
I
know,
remember.
he's basically he's 6'11", 7 foot, and I just say hello to Brad. A great guy, but yeah, levels right. So
Yeah. But the like for me in my own personal kind of health journey of learning, I used to, it's just a journey of learning, and I think the one thing I wanted to share with everybody, and I'm kind of going back to this whole life challenge, is I had people who, if this is a little overwhelming because you kind of don't read ingredients as much and you don't pay as much attention to sugar or seed oils going all the way to that level, or you're eating maybe more processed food than you like, or you don't even know what pescatarian means, right? Whatever the case is, it's been a slow and steady progression for me through the years. And to where now I am primarily dairy and gluten free. I'm completely gluten free, very limited on the sugar, pay attention to the seed oils, try to avoid processed foods as much as I can. But a lot of this just has come throughout time. But the one thing I love about the moderation comment you made, Len, is it's progress, not perfection. And if you continue to focus on progress and not perfection, then you keep your confidence high and you just keep yourself on that journey of learning, because that's what it is. It's an evolution that you're going to continue to go through if health is in fact important to you. And so if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure it is, right? And so just focus on, and if you fall off the bike, get back on this next day. I mean, I think too many people are all or nothing on a diet, where what you really want to do is make lifestyle commitments and changes and evolutions to where, listen, I still eat seed oil from time to time, but I pay attention and I try to limit it as much as possible. I eat sugar probably every day I eat sugar, but I pay attention and I try not to buy things with added sugar that's more than 3 grams, right? And I try not to consume added sugar as much as I possibly can and make it all natural. And I try to avoid sugar, alcohol. So these are things I just learned throughout the years. And don't do diets. Don't try to just do the 6-week whole life challenge was great because it was educational based and it was a little bit of competitive and fun. And I learned so much throughout it. But I think the key is, and why that program is really successful, is you start every day with a new point scoring versus like in the past when I've been like, oh, well, I'm going to do this for this period of time. And then all of a sudden I'm not going to drink alcohol for 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then I have a drink and it's like, all right, well, the next day I already broke it. You know what I mean? It's like you're totally off versus just every day starting new and just making a commitment to just making progress, not perfection.
yeah, and I think the keynote you said is just learning every day. When I got started in this business, I'm native of Pittsburgh, as you referenced, went to Duquesne University. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Duquesne University is in downtown Pittsburgh. It was literally 2 blocks away from the old Civic Arena, and now it's a block away from PPG Paints Arena where the Penguins play, the NHL Penguins play. But I was a senior, went across the street and interned for a team called the Pittsburgh Spirit, which was a rival of the Cleveland Force in the old Major Indoor Soccer League here. And then I interned for the Pirates as well. But the thing about it is I just remember, and I got a job, end up working for the Spirit out of school, but I would go downstairs in the weight room and just work out. And that's where the Penguins would work out down there too. And the Spirit both had a shared room. And they had a trainer named Rusty Jones for the Penguins, who was a great guy, ended up being the trainer for the Buffalo Bills. But I just would talk to him about this because I didn't know. I'm 21, 22. And the first thing he taught me to do was read labels, he said. So 2 things you said. First of all, about your daughter reading the labels. And then secondly, he said, you can take your shots. Take your shots and just get back on the train, back on your regimen. So every so often, you may take your shot with something that deviates off of your diet, but just know you can get back on it and you can take your shots. Hey, Thanksgiving happens, boom, maybe deviate a day, but get back on the train from there. It's not not fatal. You'll get through it, but
Don't take the leftovers home.
yeah, exactly. So just take your shots every so often, but just get back into your regimen and
Yeah,
then all will be fine.
that's great. Len, share with me, if you would, just working in professional sports and entertainment. I'm sure it's demanding and fast paced and all of those things. And share with us, we've already shared some, I believe, but like anything else you'd like to share around how you prioritized your physical health and wellness over the years and how that's impacted your performance as a leader.
Yeah, yeah. So as you mentioned, Jason, it's been a journey, and I would say in the last 10 years in particular, I've become much more of a student. I mentioned early on, and I've had phases where I've continued to evolve, whether it be from a dietary end or others. But I am much like you and others out there. I played a lot of sports in growing up in high school. I played tennis at Duquesne. Atlantic 10 tennis. And so I've continued to play tennis to this day. I actually hit this morning, which has been phenomenal. But I've always tried to maintain some aspect from an exercise end. And tennis has been a big focus, do a lot of walking. That I think dietary wise, going back to Rusty Jones and reading labels, I've tried to really restrict about the amount of red meat I eat. So I've just really going even at an earlier age. So I do a lot of chicken and fish. And even now, when you mentioned about pescatarian, I basically eat fish, and really they're focused on the fatty fishes, whether it be looking at salmon or otherwise, really a big part of the diet regimen as well. And then really a lot of fruits and vegetables, do a lot of protein through plant-based protein. So you think about beans and nuts and elements of that nature. So a lot of from a dietary end. And the other part too, and again, this has all been within the last 10 years, but have now become a real fan of intermittent fasting. So I'm generally an eight hours on in terms of eating and then 16 off. So if you think about noon to 8 o'clock, that window from a lunch, any snacks and dinner within that realm, and give myself 16. Periodically I'll do 24 hours as well, but I really found that it really helps me with just more stability with my weight. And I'm about like I'm 5'11", 160. So you would definitely knock me out of the box from a rebounding end. But but in that realm, I've been able to really stabilize, as opposed to I figure like, man, I'm working out. I'm doing a lot with tennis. You get a great hit workout with it, elements of that nature, and get my walking, but I would still have that stubborn like 5 pounds off of where I felt just right. And I've been really able to maintain that a lot more. It's like anything else. Calories are calories, right? So they all add up. And if you're consuming more than you're burning, it's going to have an impact. And the other part of it as well is I've really become much more of a student. So when you think about lifespan, but key is part of it is probably even more important is health span. So I think we all want to be as active and enjoy our families, our friends, making impacts in the community as long as possible. But if you're not healthy, then I know people who've gone through some significant health challenges, and they talk about how the fact that when you're healthy, there's 1,000 things on your mind, right? When you're not healthy, there's only one thing on your mind. And so that health span aspect and continually learning, and there's some phenomenal resources that are accessible for everybody, whether it be Dr. Peter Attia has a Drive podcast, which they're lengthy and they're in depth, but you can go scroll through there. There's 2 hours of going deep on whatever you want to go deep on. He's really been a terrific follow, and same with Dr. Mark Hyman, who started the Functional Wellness Institute here at the Cleveland Clinic. On his end, Dr. David Sinclair. There's a host of folks that are really focused on treating aging as a disease and about things that you can do to remedy that and to make sure you can go forward. But those have been really helpful in terms of keeping the schedules we all have with what we have going on, and dedicating that time to be able to impact yourself. So what is it? I think it's the 80-20 rule, right? 80% diet and then 20% your physical activity. So if you can get the diet right and then have the right element of of physical activity, that's key. The other things I would just say are wearables. Those have been a gift. I've got an Apple Watch, which has been great. And you can have all the settings. So I played tennis this morning, and I could set it, and it'll go into the health app that they have. And then my kids 4 Father's Days ago, got me an Aura Ring. And the thing about the Aura Ring, which really was a factor that I'd done a very poor job measuring, was sleep.
Yep.
And you know how you wake up and you're groggy, you're not feeling great. Maybe you had a couple of extra glasses of wine, that impacts you, but you really, the biometrics in terms of how you perform from a sleep end, it's just there black and white, and you can really track it. So I now pay way more attention to my sleep than I ever have, and also restorative sleep. So in terms of your deep sleep versus light sleep, and it's been really a big game changer as well, because it keeps me accountable. We talked about measuring, whether in the challenge, the health and wellness challenge,
right?
But those biometrics, and the beauty of it is they're just getting better all the time. There's more and more coming out there that really happens. So, but I'll pause there because I can just keep riffing for a while longer, but just to make sure we get through. Well, I will say this as well. 2 other things, and I know this sort of lends itself and I get this question all the time. So I belong to Cleveland Racket Club, and I'll play out there, and I'll get done playing, and then I get the ice bags out, and I icing my shoulder, my elbows, and everything else. And invariably people walk by and go, "Oh, did you get hurt? What injury, whatever." And I said, "No, this is maintenance." And then I use the analogy: if you ever walked in or ever you saw a camera in a professional locker room, you will see these guys with ice bags taped to their knees, and I'm looking NBA taped to their knees, taped to all over their body, because it stems inflammation. And if you think about different injuries that happen, a lot of it is just compounding inflammation. And if you do nothing to address that, it becomes chronic after a while. And so that's been a real huge plus that I've been doing now for a number of years, but it does help with that matter as well. And then the other part is where I would say I had neglected, that I've now become much more attentive to, is strength training. So that balance of cardio, but strength, and whole different level of weight training that on balance you need to sustain your health as well.
Len, man, we're really like-minded souls. Like we do a lot of the same stuff. The strength training piece, I do out of necessity. I don't necessarily enjoy it. I do it because I like how the way it makes me feel, the way it makes me look. And I know that long-term health benefits that I'm not going to get from the other things that I really love doing, which is like, I love yoga, right? I love the mind, the body, and the soul aspect that I get from yoga and how I feel during it and after, right? And so I love pickleball, right? Pickleball is so much fun. It's social and it's active. But, a big takeaway, like some of the things that you shared that I wanted to let everybody know kind of what resonated with me, and maybe it resonated with them too, was you got to do something you love, right? Like if you love outdoor and nature, then you should be walking and hiking, right? If you love the social aspect, or maybe you used to be a tennis player and now, tennis is no longer in your wheelhouse, pickleball might be a good choice, right? Or you're a ping pong player, pickleball might be a good choice. Whatever it might be though, find what you're kind of passionate about, and find something that you can enjoy doing that is physically active. Big takeaway I got from you, Len, was that icing is a maintenance. Never really thought about it that way. Like I play pickleball, and afterward, man, my knees and my ankles and my shins and my from the knees down are kind of like beat up. And why aren't I icing right afterward, just as a maintenance kind of thing? I always thought of it from an injury. Funny thing is, as we sit right now, you might have saw me wiggling around in my seat. I also love winter sports, right? I love skiing. I love snowmobiling. I was snowmobiling out in Yellowstone a little over a month ago, and got a little aggressive, jumping the snowmobiles off the mountain, and blew my whole knee out. So tore my ACL, separated ligaments from the bone, like had a whole reconstructive surgery a week and a half ago. So right now I'm doing a lot of icing, not for maintenance, but more to try to get through this healing period.
Yeah,
But
I feel for you. I had my left ACL blown out, and I had that operated on probably about 13, 14 years ago. But it was a blessing once that was done and getting back and you get your confidence back. Like with any injury, right? You're having had something happen, and then a lot of it, you're tentative when you even though you're cleared to come back. But once you get your confidence back, it's even better than ever. And I had a year ago, last January, I had Tommy John surgery done to my right elbow. See my scar here,
yeah,
and that was from tennis. But it's been the same thing. It's been just terrific to be able to have that done and to be past it, and now feeling great. But the thing with it as well, the icing. But so in a sport like tennis or pickleball or others, you use your joints a lot. When you have repetitive motion, whether it be golf, tennis, pickleball, any racket sport where you have these repetitive motions, it puts a lot of pressure on your joints. And where I've really learned a lot there is about the need to have, and we're talking with weights. We're not talking about, and like in the case of I'm speaking about, not talking about having to lift massive amounts of weight. We're talking, I mean, if it's 20-pound dumbbells or whatever you're working with, that and the amount of exercises you have to be able to support the muscle groups around all your joints. And that takes the pressure off your joints. So that was a problem for me. I was shortcutting. I was, love to play tennis or whatever it is. And I would go, okay, great. Warm up, stretch, play. And I wasn't doing the support, the strength training portion of that in support. And over time, it created issues with joints where I've now had, unfortunately, I've had a shoulder surgery. I've had, both on my outer portion of my elbow, along with Tommy John. And I've learned too late, even though I'm exposed to sports world, right? I've learned too late about the real value of strength training to augment whatever you're doing. And it's going back to that word holistic. There's not like one thing. There's many things you can do in the flow of your day that all add up to you having really long, enhancing your health span.
yep. And Len, I think like some people have the discipline to do it all themselves. And I don't know if you're in that camp or if you're in the camp where you need accountability partners, you need a trainer, you need a coach, in different areas that you want to improve in your life. I'm definitely in that latter part, right? I've learned throughout my life, if I don't have coaching and accountability, if I don't have an appointment I got to show up for, and I know I'm going to let somebody down if I don't show up, like I typically don't do as well. I don't show up as often as if it's just all on me. And so, yeah, where are you at with that?
So I've been doing more from, I would say, from a health and wellness perspective, been relative to the programs I'm talking about, more self-regulated there, but I'm using resources. And what I mean by that now, there is so much more out there certainly from the longevity and health span perspective. So there's groups like Fountain Life, if you're familiar with them, that are out there that are what they're doing is they go dramatically deeper relative to your blood work, measurables of that nature, full body scan, and really trying to play a lot of offense and try to head off any type of issues. There's a local doctor who I've used who replicates a lot of that based out of Chagrin Falls. And in fact, he was really helpful from a personal end, but everybody in our family now has seen him. And he actually found a health condition with my one daughter that really has been a game changer for her, just with some medication to be able to address a matter that was undiscovered before.
Wow.
So I think we're really looking at exploring those type of journeys as well. Where
Kind of like a functional medicine type of doctor, or
well, I use Fountain Life as an example because there's other groups that are out there. But if you were to go there, you would see that they would do, for example, with blood work, they'll do biomarkers that'll range in the hundreds. You've heard of the Grail test, which go out and work to try to flag at least up to 80 types of different cancer. These full full MRI body scans where they'll go and they'll find detection of something that may not have been discovered. And you look at, I'm using as an example, pancreatic cancer, which unfortunately in most cases only discovered when it's at stage 4. And at that point, it's generally too late. If you were to catch that earlier, it's a dramatically different outcome. So there's just a lot more granularity and a lot more, I would say, really offensively in a very, very holistic, comprehensive fashion about what's going on down there. And there's ranges of that. Again, I'm using Fountain Health as one because it's something easy to Google and you can see. Now there's an investment associated with them. There's different levels of investment, but an investment in your health. And like I said, there are in different communities, there's maybe alternatives that might want to call like Fountain Health Light that might be even more cost efficient to do that. But it goes beyond the whole aspect of I'm going to my doctor for my annual physical and getting my readings. This is really about playing more offense with your health and being able to identify areas where, and I'll use as an example, VO2 max. I don't know if you had your VO2 max measured, but Dr. Peter Tia, and I know someone who personally has him as his doctor, which is just amazing. It took him, he was a YPOer. It took him 18 months to be able to penetrate, to be able to get through. But this gives you an idea of how important VO2 max is, which really measures your maximum oxygen capacity. But, and so for someone my age, I'm 65. If I can get my heart rate between 120 to 130, 45 minutes at a time. So for me, that's being on a treadmill. I have it down now measured where if I'm on a treadmill and I'm doing a fast walk, a 4.3 pace, and I have it at 9 for elevation, that gets me in that zone. And you want to do that for like at least 2.5 hours a week. Now I can do that with some tennis too. That helps a lot to elevate there. And it's about sustained. It's not about short bursts. It's about a longer period of time with it. But to give you an idea of how important it is, again, this is Dr. Peter Tia. This fellow YPO mate of ours had and asked him how important it was. He's asked, what's the most important thing I could do? And he said, get your VO2 max at the optimal level. And he goes, if you had a choice between you're a 3-pack a day cigarette smoker or getting your VO2 max at the highest level, if you had dropping one and getting that to the max, he goes, I would tell you keep smoking your 3-packs and get your VO2 max at the level, just to make the point about how important that is. Wow. So that's another area that I'm very mindful of now in trying to achieve that. And but this doc too, and you can, by the way, you can get this at Lorain County Community College, Cuyahoga County Community College, or University of Akron, whatever. A lot of these colleges, you can go in and get your VO2 max checked up on. In my case, they put an oxygen mask on you, got on a bike, and they keep on upping the pace. So you're on this pace for 30 seconds, and here's another minute there, and until you can't go anymore, your max. But anyways, just so many different aspects there. But that's another key measure that they'll have and try to hold you accountable to.
How often? Yeah, I'm pretty well versed in all this stuff, Len. In just for kind of, I'm curious on the Grail test. How often do you get that done, and then how often do you get the whole body MRI?
Well, so to speak to that, we have not had that done yet. So we had the other band of tests, but my wife and I have signed up, and we're going to go down in June and go through all of that. So I'll let you know how that all goes. But nice. I'm looking forward to it. And there's people, like we said, other fellow YPO mates who have all done this, who have advocated as well for it. The one other thing too, I know that I haven't mentioned, that I'm also more focused on. So being the diet that I have, there's often an aspect of, well, how do you get enough protein in your diet? And certainly the fish component is a good one, but you're not having fish all day. And I do a lot of beans and nuts, but I also have a protein supplement. So I'll use Garden of Life.
Same.
It's a plant-based protein, mix it with some almond milk, and I'll have a glass of that every day, which gives me another level of amount of grams of protein, which is great as a supplement. And then the other thing which I'm using now is a plant-based creatine started with that just to enhance, and using Kion. A friend had recommended that as well, but in terms of augmenting my strength training to just enhance it in a natural way. So just some supplements there that I've added to the mix over the period of years that have been really helpful to augment what I'm looking to do. So you got your wearables, you got some supplements, certainly have some vitamins I take in that realm, and then diet and exercise, and then obviously, you talked about yoga. So I'm a fan of hot box yoga. They jack up the temperature in there to about 110 to 114, whatever, and you sweat. But I've really found that helpful for me because it helps stretch you further. So we age, our muscles contract and continue to contract, and it's a way to stretch my muscles because they're all lubricated beyond what I even thought would it be able to do. And so that's been helpful. I just need to do more of it.
Yep. Well, let's kind of land the plane on talking about mental health, right? Like kind of how to stay mentally sharp. And some of this, obviously, we both know crosses over, right? A lot of the stuff we talked about today, your diet affects your health, right? And your exercise affects your mental health. So they all are, that's why holistic health, right? It all does play off of each other very much so, just like financials kind of do, of tax, financial, legal, insurance. They all need to be coordinated. The same kind of thing happens. One area is not going to perform as well as it could have if the others aren't working in conjunction. And so share with us some of your best practices, Len, of what you do to stay mentally healthy and sharp.
Well, I think, first of all, I know it's because this has been the funny part. When I stepped away as CEO of the Cavs, so I've been CEO of the Cavs and Rock Entertainment Group and our arena down here. I'm still a senior advisor here, but everybody was taken under the guise of, hey, you're retiring. And I have a lot of admiration for you, Jason, because you built a business, right? And you're really the principal of your business. And I wanted to go away from being just a daily operator to maybe crossing over and being able to make an impact with what I'm doing, but necessarily have to be at that one thing 24/7, 365 as the lead. And so my wife and I always wanted to have a minor league baseball team, which we're really blessed with the Crushers. I'm a minority partner and a director for Sheffield United of the English Football League. We've always loved English soccer. And part of that with another fellow YPOer, Steve Rosen and group there. And then also I'm a director for the National Basketball League in Australia, really just helping them with what they're doing, and which has been a lot of fun. And then also trying to bring soccer back here to Cleveland with Michael Murphy and the Cleveland Soccer Group with men's and women's soccer. So I've been able to continue to get engaged in what I love to do, but not have to be on the front line every single moment when you're an operator like that. It's been a big plus, and it's really helped me because of the breadth and the scope and getting engaged at each level to the level I can. I will say this too, just from a mental end and beyond all the aspects from what exercise and diet and the like. My wife and I have become much more focused on our faith. So we're both Catholic, raised Catholic, and engaged with our church and learning a lot there. I will tell you, as someone who basically grew up, I went to a Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, and Duquesne is a Catholic college, but I was probably what I would say more incidental and not really going as deep. And so it's been a tremendous journey there as well. So when you think about and that, and then I think just really with our kids, we have 4 kids. So you think about faith, family, and then whatever you're doing from your world overall. But we have a great crew, and just being at a point where we can help make an impact in their world and their lives have been, and we still have a long journey to go there. But I think and how we can continue to engage there. So, and then I would say, sort of dovetailing with the faith, we have several initiatives or passions. So my old high school, I've been really focused with North Catholic, and they have a terrific mission, and I'm on the board there and how I can help with them. And they've done a poor job of fundraising or development. They had none. And now we're really focused on how do we build that capacity, how important that is to keep the mission alive. And the same at Duquesne in that end, and then other with Hillcrest Hospital. I'm one of the trustee there, but I think all those aspects and I heard so many stories about people where they go from one chapter of life to the next, and they go stop you talk about it from a mental end, they start to atrophy, or they just lose that sense of purpose. And I think that was a big part with the Crushers as well. These franchises, these teams, and I'm here at the Cavs or with the Crushers, are phenomenal platforms to elevate the community. We're doing, my wife now, we started Crushers Charity. She's the executive director, and we're going to lean in a lot more, especially in Lorain County, where there really isn't another pro team in that area to be able to help, especially with areas like in Lorain and Elyria, in those markets, and and our president, Vic Gregovitz, is the chair of the Second Harvest fundraising drive, and elements where we can really lean in more and make a bigger impact. So I think those are the things where we have a chance to hopefully get back with the privilege and honor we have to make an impact. We're going to try to keep focusing in on more. So really keeping us going. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the Blue Zone and all those studies in purpose and relationships, right? Where like the two of they were actually right up there with the diet, right? Which is primarily a Mediterranean based pescatarian kind of diet, but of longevity of such a driver. So you're really not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, Len. It's pretty cool. I want to share something you touched on earlier. It's an old Indian proverb, and it says a person in good health has 1,000 wishes. A person in poor health has only one. And that's really what you were saying earlier.
Yes.
And it's kind of, I love that proverb, and I think of it often now as I'm recovering from this kind of major leg injury and surgery. And it is so true, but staying proactive, getting ahead of everything, being proactive instead of reactive with your health is so important. Len, thank you so much. This is so fun. I learned and I laughed, and I'm sure everybody else learned and got a lot out of this. So I'm very blessed to have you on here and have you in my life. So thank you, Len.
No, Jason, hey, thanks for having me on, and we will see you at the ballpark. So go Crushers, opening day, May 13th. So we'll look forward to getting the season going.
Go Crushers.
Thank you for listening to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. We hope we inspired you to make changes so you can live your best life. If you want to find out more about what we do, or if you want to have a holistic wealth and health financial plan, please call 456-833-7000. Please subscribe to the podcast and share it widely with your friends and family. Financial planning and advisory services are offered through Prosperity Capital Advisors, PCA, an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Ohio. J.L. Smith Holistic Wealth Management and PCA are separate, non-affiliated entities. PCA does not provide tax or legal advice. Insurance and tax services offered through J.L. Smith Holistic Wealth Management are not affiliated with PCA. Information received from this podcast should not be viewed as individual investment advice. Product discussions and illustrations are hypothetical in nature and will vary based on many factors, including, but not limited to, age, health, product, insurance carrier, and product design. You should consult the insurance carrier website and policy for detailed information. For information pertaining to the registration status of PCA, please contact the firm or refer to the investment advisor public disclosure website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. For additional information about PCA, including fees and services, send for our disclosure statement as set forth on Form ADV from PCA using the contact information herein. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money.